Welcome to Wonderland Unlocked. I'm Courtney, a certified peer support specialist, and this is Series 2, Through the Rabbit Hole, the beginning of self-discovery. I've fallen down my own rabbit hole, questioning everything along the way. Now, I'm here to support you as you explore the unknown, challenge what you believe, and uncover who you really are. Take a deep breath. The rabbit hole is waiting. Let's unlock Wonderland together.
Alice, sweetheart, it's time for tea. Alice. Alice.
Welcome back to Wonderland Unlocked. Today, we're stepping through the mirror, crossing the threshold from where we've been to where we're going. But before we can move forward, we need to acknowledge where we've come from. I remember a time when I felt completely stuck. I was staring at my own reflection, unsure of who I was or where I was going. Every attempt at progress felt like walking in circles, trapped in the same patterns and the same doubts. It felt like looking into a distorted mirror, seeing myself in pieces, but never the full picture. This feeling is something many of us go through. Psychology tells us that self-awareness is the first step to change. Our brains rely on past experiences to predict future outcomes, and when we've been caught in cycles of self-doubt or fear, it's hard to believe in the possibility of something different. But awareness is key to breaking the cycle. So take a moment to reflect. What patterns have been holding you back? What fears have kept you from stepping forward? Before we move ahead, we must see ourselves clearly. There was a moment in my life when I had to make a choice. Stay where I was, comfortable in my chaos, or take the terrifying step forward. It wasn't an easy decision. The unknown was daunting, but staying stagnant was suffocating. One of the hardest realizations was understanding that comfort doesn't always mean safety. Sometimes the things we cling to, certain relationships, routines, even our own self-perceptions, are the very things keeping us trapped. I had to let go of who I thought I was supposed to be in order to become who I truly was. Science backs this up. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, proves that change is possible at any stage of life. The brain is adaptable, but we must be intentional. We must be willing to challenge our automatic thoughts and rewrite our narrative. For me, the breaking point came when I realized I was living in a reflection of my past rather than stepping into my future. I had spent years defining myself by old wounds, by past mistakes, by the roles others had assigned to me. It was like looking into a distorted mirror, one that only reflected the versions of me that I had outgrown. The first real shift happened when I began questioning those reflections. Were they really me? Or were they just echoes of someone I no longer was? It was uncomfortable, even painful, to dismantle the identity I had built around survival. But survival isn't the same thing as living. I remember one night in particular, I was sitting alone, staring at my reflection in the window, feeling like I was split between two worlds. The world I knew and the one I hadn't stepped into yet. In that moment, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let my past dictate my future anymore. That choice didn't immediately change everything, but it was the first step. Each day, I started replacing self-doubt with curiosity. Instead of assuming I wasn't capable, I asked myself, what if I am? Instead of seeing failure as proof that I wasn't good enough, I reframed it as proof that I was learning. Over time, those small shifts rewired my thinking. I wasn't trapped in my old patterns anymore. I was creating new ones. And that's the thing about crossing through the mirror. It's not about leaving behind who you were. It's about integrating your past while stepping fully into who you're meant to become. Why does stepping forward feel like such a battle? The answer lies in our brain's wiring. The amygdala, the brain's fear center, sends signals of danger when faced with uncertainty. It's not that we can't change, it's that our brains perceive change as a threat. Studies show that even positive changes trigger stress responses. This is why sometimes sabotage ourselves. Our brains seek familiarity, even in dysfunction, but we can counter this by actively rewiring our thought patterns. A key method is cognitive restructuring. This involves identifying negative thought patterns and replacing them with more balanced perspectives. It's not about toxic positivity. It's about finding realistic, constructive ways to view our situation. For example, instead of "I'll never change," reframe it to "change is difficult, but I am capable." Shifting our internal dialogue is the first step towards meaningful transformation. Another crucial factor in change is neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new connections and pathways. The more we practice new ways of thinking and behaving, the stronger these neural pathways become. It's like walking through a forest. At first, the path is overgrown and difficult to navigate, but with repetition, it becomes clearer and easier to follow. Incorporating mindfulness and self-compassion into the process can also make a significant difference. Studies indicate that those who approach change with kindness rather than self-criticism are more likely to sustain progress. Instead of berating ourselves for setbacks, acknowledging them as part of the learning process allows us to move forward with resilience. Ultimately, the discomfort of change is a sign of growth. The key is to lean into it rather than resist it. By understanding our brain's resistance to change and working with it rather than against it, we can step forward with greater confidence and self-awareness. So, how do we move forward? Change isn't a single leap. It's a series of intentional steps. Let's break down the process. Acknowledge the fear, but don't let it lead. Fear is a natural response to uncertainty, especially when stepping into the unknown. But rather than pushing it away or allowing it to dictate your actions, sit with it and ask yourself, what am I truly afraid of? Is this fear protecting me, or is it holding me back? What would I do if fear wasn't in control? Often, our fears are rooted in past experiences, social conditioning, or lack of confidence in our ability to handle discomfort. Recognizing this allows you to reframe fear, not as a roadblock, but as a signpost showing you where growth is possible. Break it down. One of the biggest reasons change feels overwhelming is because we look at the entire journey instead of focusing on the next step. Break your goal down into micro goals, small, manageable actions that build momentum. Instead of saying, "I need to change my entire lifestyle," start with, "I will wake up 10 minutes earlier," or "I will practice one new coping skill this week." Realistic timelines. Change isn't instant. Allow yourself time to adjust and celebrate incremental progress rather than expecting perfection. Accountability check-ins. Whether it's journaling your progress, using habit trackers, or having a check-in buddy, find a way to keep yourself anchored to your goals. Mindfulness and emotional regulation. Uncertainty triggers emotional upheaval. When you've spent your whole life following a script, playing a role that someone else has assigned to you, suddenly being able to choose who you want to be is overwhelming. I had spent so long defining myself by my struggles, my fears, my past mistakes. Who was I without them? For a while, I clung to old patterns out of habit, even though I knew they were hurting me. It was like standing on the edge of a cliff, knowing that I needed to jump, but gripping the edge because at least it was familiar. But then I asked myself, what if I stopped gripping so hard? What if I stopped fighting to hold on to the things that are trying to leave? So little by little, I let go. I let go of outdated beliefs about who I should be and started embracing who I truly was. I stopped measuring my worth by how much I could endure and started recognizing that I deserved peace, not just survival. I allowed myself to be seen, even when it felt vulnerable. I allowed myself to make mistakes, to be imperfect, to change my mind. And I realized that growth isn't about reaching a destination. It's about continuously stepping forward, even when the path isn't clear. And there were moments when I wanted to turn back. There were times when the weight of the unlearning, healing, and the rebuilding felt unbearable. But every time I thought I was falling apart, I was really just shedding another layer that wasn't meant to stay. The truth is, the journey never really ends. We are always evolving, always discovering new versions of ourselves, and that's the beauty of it. The person to me speaking to you now is not the same person I was a year ago or even a month ago, and I won't be the same person in a year from now, but that's okay, because for the first time, I trust the process. I trust myself. So if you're standing on the edge of your own transformation, terrified of what's on the other side, know that it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to grieve what you're leaving behind. But you don't need to let that fear keep you from stepping forward, because what's waiting for you on the other side is more than just a new life. It's you. So here we are. You stand at your own mirror, faced with a choice. Do you stay in the familiar, or do you take the step forward, embracing the unknown? It's okay to be scared. It's okay to hesitate. But know this, on the other side of fear is freedom. On the other side of doubt is self-discovery. And on the other side of your own mirror is a version of you that is waiting to be found. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to take the first step. Thank you for joining me in Wonderland Unlocked. Until next time, keep stepping forward, one moment, one choice at a time.